Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is webinar number 7 of our spring and summer series. My name is Meredith White. I am in Metro Atlanta, Georgia, in Gwinnett County Public Schools. We have teamed up with Klett World Languages to sponsor this webinar series. And tonight, I don't know where she is on your screen, but here she is on mine. We have the fabulous flag president-elect, Tavane Moore. And she's going to talk to us about low tech and no tech in the world language classroom. What does it all mean? What does it all look like? How do we wrap our minds around like when we should be using technology, if we should be using technology? It's all a lot to think about. Tavana, will you tell us where you are and what you're up to these days?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tavane Moore. I'm in Fulton County, Georgia. I teach at Sandy Springs Middle School, and I'm a prolific presenter. And right here, I am passionate about uh, cultivating student agency, differentiation, personalized learning, uh, productive stations. I love doing stations, and you'll see them tonight. I also love to implement instructional technology, which you'll see a little bit. This is about no tech and some low tech. And as Meredith said, I'm the president-elect. She's president. And these are different positions I've held in different awards. And um, as I said, I love to present. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. You can watch this later also. And this is the QR code, and this is the link to the QR code, whichever one you want to use. And hopefully you find some helpful information in here. In my classes, it's quite important to me that, as I said about cultivating student agency, it's important that students have a choice in what they're doing and what they're learning. And I include students in the process of learning, which means that we do the can-do statements. They self-assess, they set goals. I brainstorm with them. I can do that with technology or without. I use Padlet to have them brainstorm. And I will also have them, I will brainstorm on the board. And I want students to realize the process of learning, because I don't believe that learning should be isolated from them. I don't think that the process should be. I don't think that they don't need to know the words the teachers use. They absolutely need to know what we're using and why we're doing what we're doing. It's not just my why, which is separate from what maybe theirs, but it's all of us together. And in my classroom, that's how I've been cultivating the cultures that I have in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. And here I'm just going to, this is the handout that you have or that you see there. And I have a shopping list for my stations. Anything you want to use here, feel free to use. And you'll see most of these items in the videos and the pictures I'm going to show you. I do give my students a learning style survey at the beginning of the year. And if you want to use these templates for planning your stations, feel free. I give my students a reflection sheet. And if we, at the end of our gathering here, if we have time, then I'll open these up and show you. But as I said, these are the handouts, so you have access. And these are my rewards and class incentives. And up here, I have a lot of videos and pictures to show you. And they're not in any particular order. They are, they're just, because really, when you walk into my classroom, you'll see in a moment. There's a lot of, it stays busy in there. And it's not just busy work, it's productive busy. And frankly, I've been teaching 21 years, going on my 22nd this year, and I don't want to be bored. And I personally, I feel passionate about learning because I love the mental stimulation of learning. I love the brain, the process in the brain. I love seeing how the students, it just fills my heart when the students get something and, you hear them say, oh, or even when the student starts fussing at somebody else in Spanish, or they start saying something and it's just coming off the top of their head and they're using that real world application. I love it. I absolutely love it. Sometimes when students look at me like I'm crazy, but they're used to it now. And I've taught middle school and in Fulton County. I am teaching 8th grade right now, and I've taught 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and 7th and 8th grade. Those are high school credit classes. And I have taught high school. I taught in Fulton, Clayton County. I taught 6 years, Spanish 1, 2, 3, and I had a native speakers class. And so what I want to show you, you can do it at any level, just tweak it for whatever grade level you're teaching. And of course, tweak them if you want to use them. Tweak them for whatever your students are like, personalities, because we know our students. We absolutely know our students. All right, so first thing I'm going to show you is the word wall. And word walls is precisely what it looks like. This is my interactive word wall. And everything I'm going to show you, you will see sometimes students are in stations, sometimes they're not, they're just in groupings. But everything I'm showing you, you can make these into stations. Some of these things can be also, some of these strategies and activities can also be turned into something used with a lot of technology. But first I'm going to show you is mainly no tech. So you don't need any kind of computer, except for right here, as you see, they are in station. So I have the clock projected on the board for them so the whole class can see it. And but all of these, most of these that you can see here are going to be no text. So you don't need technology. Some of these activities, you can have the students create them. They know sometimes you have students who may not understand something, so you can have them create some of the vocabulary or some of the activities. You can work with them to create them. And I truly believe in using my students' work. If there's something that they did was quite well, I'll ask them, do you mind if I use this? Or sometimes I'll surprise them, especially if it's not something that they can identify their voice. I'll surprise them and I will use theirs. And I have class money, which you'll see them using the store in a little bit. But there are a lot of different, just as you watch this, think about possibly what you could do with these, tweak them if you'd like to. And feel free to send me an email saying, Tavane, try this. This is what I did with that, whatever you think about this. And also, just consider what you can do. Just consider what you can do with your students. So this is these are foam sliders. It's just the big the foam board you can buy at the store, or you can order them, of course. Sometimes I use the color ones, sometimes I use the white ones. And in my class, as I said, I do give my students a learning style survey at the beginning of the year so they can learn what their dominant learning styles are. And because I want them to understand how they learn and not even just what we do in my classroom. I do tell them and I challenge them for class money to use strategies we come up with in our class and in other classes. So they can use the word associations, they can use gestures, because we play Simon Says a good bit. But this right here, this is interactive word wall. And so, of course, I do understand comprehensible input. And this is another strategy right here. Again, because it's important to know how we learn. And I know that I'm a logical type learner, so I like things step by step by step by step. And here, seeing we have these are AR verbs with the AR endings cut off. And then the subject pronouns are in the light blue. And then the AR endings are in the red. So the students were creating sentences and challenging each other. And I was just watching. And this is what I would normally do anyway without the camera, and just give feedback, which is part of the personalized learning. Oh, I'm gonna give it a moment because I have a lot of videos that are on pause right now. So what these boys are doing is they are creating the sentences and they're checking each other, and I'm just standing there recording them. Let me see if I'm standing there recording, just watching. And so students are allowed to go up to the board whenever, as long as they're not interrupting anybody, they can go up to the board whenever they want to. If they need to figure something out that we're working at the time, they can go up there and work it out. This is good for the visual learners because it's color coded. It's good for the kinesthetic learners, the ones who want to move and use their body. It's also good for the logicals because we like to figure puzzles out and analyze things. And then of course, this is good for the visuals. I'm not sure I think I said that, I'm not quite sure. And then right here, we have another one. And this is when they were learning the dates. And again, I have the numbers color coded. I have the days here. And I just reuse these throughout the year or throughout the years. And this was during COVID. So we had sanitizer ready for them. Now notice that the students are fully engaged and it's a student-centered rather than being centered on me or me talking to them a lot and saying, do you understand? It's them figuring this out for themselves. She's checking the other girl's work. So again, these are just foam sliders with the adhesive magnets. I just buy the magnet strip at Walmart and cut them up, and they have adhesive on them, but I use a hot glue gun too, just to make sure, because these are going to get a lot of use. And also this can be turned in, and this has become in the past a differentiated assessment. So whatever the information is on, I'll ask the students, I'll put on the projector a list of different choices that they have, and I'll ask them, what other choice can you do for this? So for example, you'll see this is a date. One of my students, or plenty of my students over the years, but let's say one student chose to do the kinesthetic visual. So I would give them dates. I would say about 5 different dates. So let's say I would say January 3rd. So they would go up there and organize a January 3rd and el resto de enero. And I'm just checking it off on my check sheet. And then the other half of those is going to be me saying the date in Spanish, and she would tell me the date in English. Whereas some students, they chose, which I'll show you that one in a little bit, where students flipped through calendars, but it was the same. I was assessing the same information, just letting them choose which learning style they wanted to do it by. And it was quite successful. And if they didn't do well, I'd say about 95% did well, because they were able to choose the one that they figured would be best for themselves. And if they didn't, they could choose another way to do it. I mean, it wasn't labor intensive. Here, this is a picture of my actually, let me come over here. I want to show you the class store. So this is my class store. Kids they earn money, they have jobs in here. And I'm showing you this early on so that you can see all the different activities we're doing. Besides proficiency based, it also leads up to them being able to shop for things that they want. And if you go back to the handout here, I have my shopping list for, it's somewhere on here. It should be somewhere on here. And if it's not, I will certainly add it, because I know I had it on my handout. But I have things I've ordered from Amazon. Yes, that shopping list. And also, normally what I'll do is I'll order maybe 1 or 2 things a month that I know the kids would like, and sometimes I'll say, what are y'all into right now? And I order in bulk, definitely order in bulk. And the students just get to shop. And they have, like I said, they get paid for their jobs. Other students are working, these are shopping. They get paid about every 2 weeks. The charms. And what's cool is I actually, I was teaching them how to count. With the money, I actually taught them how to count with hundreds before they ever, I taught them, it wasn't just let's count 0 to 100. It was, okay, you have a job, I'm gonna pay you 200, 200. And I would count it out to them. And then if they owed me money, they'd have to count it out in Spanish. If they wanted to shop, and then we did shopping about once a month. They had to count it all out in Spanish. So they actually ended up learning the counting. It was real life application, which was wonderful. So this right here, this is from a good number of years ago. This is us doing weather. And so we went outside because the weather was nice. And it was Simon Dice. And if this one doesn't want to pick up properly, then what I will do, I do have another one. Okay, let me see. Yeah, let me go to the next one. This one is most recent, actually. And so after a few moments, the students we do Simon Dice, and I need to see what this one's on. I have my reward bucket right there. So when they win games or rounds, depending on activities, then I will pay them either with cost money or I let them pull it from the reward bucket. And the reward bucket has things, little slips in them that say things like, I get, this one was nice, quite nice to see students enjoying this one. There's a slip in there that says, Senora Moore will give $200 to whoever I say. And so when they got that one, they were always loving that and saying, Senora Moore, can you go ahead and give $200 to so-and-so? Or so-and-so is in your third period, can you give them $200 and tell them it was from me? It was beautiful to see them being kind like that. I love that one. Other ones say, I get a free charger rental, or I get a free laptop charge, because they're supposed to have the laptop charged when they come in the building, because they don't know when we're going to use them. So I don't want to support them not doing it. So if they don't charge it, and it's just because they didn't charge it, not if something's wrong with the laptop or the charger, but if they don't charge it, they have to pay me charge. Also, they get money for being kind to each other, just like, random kindness, a lot of different things that they can earn money for. They can share if they want to, that's up to them. But this is Simon Dice, and each round, the person who wins gets to choose how we're going to do the next round. So this is on adjectives. And when they sit down, they're supposed to keep practicing. And something that we enjoy about this with Simon Dice is this next video. This is actually us doing subject pronouns. And I do pay students also when they come up with ideas. Now, my students, the culture that we cultivate in my room, in my classes, they don't get paid for everything. Not at all. Not at all. But I want them, what I do want them to understand is when you contribute, when you contribute and when you are actively participating, sometimes you will be rewarded for that, but you won't be rewarded all the time. And I do want to say these videos go back since 2011 or 13 years. And this one right here is the subject pronouns in Spanish. Boy, that buffering, I tell you. So they're going to do, I'm saying Simon dice tú, and they're going to extend their hand straight across from them because that's somebody who's in their age group. Let me see. Okay. Yep. They're pointing out because instead it's two people who are older than them. And so they're pointing up, like I said, they're pointing up for ustedes, which is you all when you're talking to more than one adult, because they have two fingers pointing up because they're more than one adult and they're older than them. If it's vosotros, which I do teach, it's going to be straight across from them because it's more than one person who's in their age group. And again, I do have students help me come up with these gestures because I want them to also use these in their other classes. Now, right here, we're going to be looking at, these are different trios. And you'll see that students are not only using gestures, they are also writing on little whiteboards. And sometimes they're drawing because I give them choices. Again, I'm appealing to their different learning styles because as far as I'm concerned, as long as you can demonstrate, the information, and then we do a variety, a myriad of speaking exercises in my classes and presentational speaking and interpersonal speaking. And there will come a point, and it's often maybe about 7-8 times a year, where they're going to have a major assessment in which they come and speak with me, and I record it into a Seesaw ePortfolio. So this right here is after we've done a game on the big board. We've done writing activities on the big board. There might have been a drawing days before. This is also after we've played Simon Says. And this is when they get choices, and which is part of the personalized learning. They have student choice and student voice, so they get to choose. Okay, I'm going to say the student says such and such, then I'm going to show that I know this information right now like this. And this is in the lower level of the scaffolding, or it's in the process of scaffolding, because they are demonstrating that they understand or that they know what it is, but they're not using it in sentences here. But just and it does get loud, a little bit loud, but it's productive loud. Okay. I'm going to refresh this one too. So they're doing this. This is based on weather, and all these groups. These are not stations. They're all groups are doing the same thing. They're just choosing how they're playing and how they're doing it. And I'm walking around listening and giving feedback. So notice over here, these students are writing while these students are acting it out with the same information. And there's no technology. And again, notice that it is student focused. They're all engaged, and it's not focused on me leading it. It's them. They're checking each other. They're keeping score over here. And at the end, I'm not sure how many minutes. I think I did maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then we would rotate some partners, and I would pay the winning person $200, $300. And they were good about making sure that they didn't cheat, because the other two people were sitting there watching them. So again, this is another class, similar activity. And so again, depending on your level, what grade level you teach, or the students, think about what you can do with your students. And so it does give them some autonomy. And so I do have, because they get into it, so sometimes I do have to remind them. All right, and then another group. And some of these are from different years, actually. Let's see. You just have them all compiled and near each other. And so when they have those boards in front of them, they have options. They can do it. They can choose to do the visual or the kinesthetic. They can choose to write it out. They can choose to draw it, as long as they know the information. At this point, it doesn't matter. What matters most is that they know it. And then later on, they're going to be applying it. And so this is a bit more recent. And this is actually stations going on. But similar, these students, they were writing. While these students in the back, these are stations that they're out here. And she's actually correcting her And again, it's just me facilitating where as students are actively engaged. Okay, I think I already showed you that one. Now, another activity that they've done are the cubes. And feel free if there are any questions, Meredith, if you want to jump in and add anything, please do feel free.
Sure. No, absolutely. I'm just loving, I was making some notes to myself too, and I was going to ask you,
Mhm.
like well, let me zoom out and say this. I think that it's so cool that you
Mhm.
have so many like artifacts and like recordings of activities and you're teaching or whatever. Cause I'm the same way where I'm just like, oh, what the heck? Let's just record, everything and let's take a picture of it. And I want to,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. But do you think, I was going to ask you, do you think people avoid that? Like avoid either,
I think
recording
so.
themselves or recording their students doing things, and why? I mean, I know what I think, but what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think some people do, because I brought that to the teacher's attention. I said, record what you're doing so you can
Yeah.
go back and look at it. It actually fascinates me to go back and see these from
Hmm.
2000, 11 years ago and say, oh,
Yeah.
I need to try that one again. That was good. I've completely forgot about it. And like I said, I enjoy the mental stimulation of teaching. And
Yeah.
so I think some teachers don't,
Hmm.
maybe because they haven't cultivated that with their students.
Hmm.
Everything I'm using it for is only professional for
Wow.
educational
Yeah,
reasons.
that's true.
And and also some people may be concerned about recording themselves and going back and watching
Yeah.
and just watching what they're doing. But there's we stay so busy.
Mm.
And I was discussing this with a teacher the other day. She was saying something I saw on Twitter even or X, and then I looked up the article about it that teachers make more split second decisions than brain surgeons
Absolutely.
in one
For
day.
sure. Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
and I read up on that, and the title of the article was saying that you make so many decisions in
Hmm.
one day that you're tired, teachers. That's why you go home and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And so when we record, we can go back and say, oh, you know what? I didn't even realize I did that. That was
Yeah.
great. Okay, so let me go ahead and use it for this class, this class, this class. And
Yeah.
it can help you zero in on the difference in the dynamics.
Hmm.
Because I tell people who are not teachers, I say, being a teacher is like mental chess because you don't know
All
who's walking in
day.
your room.
Hmm.
You don't, somebody unfortunately can get a text and that changes everything for them.
Yeah.
They're happy, they're sad, their boyfriend talked to somebody else, they're hormonal. There are a lot of different things going on. So it helps to go back, watch the short video clips and say, okay, that was good. That was
Yeah.
good. Okay, so this class did that. So let me go ahead and try it with this other class. What do you
Right.
think?
Right.
What's
I
your perspective
agree.
on that?
And I think, well, the same. And I think it's so, yeah. I mean, just everything you said. I think teaching is so personal and it's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a vulnerable like profession where you are literally watched, you're on stage all day. So you're like,
yeah.
why would I want to watch myself now? And we
Very
already
true.
know like how vulnerable and how personal it feels. So then when you go back and watch, what's the first thing we all do? We all apologize like, oh, geez, sorry, I said sorry. It's like opening our computer for
Right,
somebody. What's the first thing we do? Oh, don't look at my desktop. Don't judge
right,
my, whatever. We're self-conscious. And I
right.
think it's such a, it can be a really hard profession in that way,
Yes.
that like, yeah,
Yes.
when you want to go back and watch yourself, you're like, oh geez, I picture myself. I started filming myself twice a week in 2012,
Mm,
and I remember the year
mm,
specifically for where I was and who told me to start doing it for reasons that I was opposed to,
mm.
and I've never grown so quickly as a
Yes.
professional than I did when I started watching myself. And I mean, yeah, like you said, it's hard to watch back. I mean, that, it's like that's a 2 drink minimum situation. You got to pour yourself like a real good bubbly water, okay, and maybe a little something else to watch
Oh,
yourself because you're like, ew, do I sound like that? Is that what I look like in that outfit? Like all of
right,
these
right,
things are
right.
there and you're just like, oh my gosh, but I've never gotten better
Right.
faster than when I watched
Yes.
myself. And it made so much sense, like you said. And I look at other high stakes, I mean, high stakes for different reasons, but high stakes professions like surgeons, professional athletes.
Mm,
These people are getting paid a lot of money to have
mhm,
their every move down to a literal science for some of them.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so are we, without the money part and without the, that, but why are they watching film and
Mm,
really perfecting their craft? And we're like, oh, I
mm,
don't want to see myself. What's up with
yes,
that? Like the every other things that other jobs that are important, watch themselves all the time and then watch
yes,
the opponent and go, here's
very
what they're going to
true.
do. Here's what they're going to do. Here's what they're going to say, whatever. Like we are so used to that in the shows we
Yeah.
watch and in culture and whatever that I don't know why as a profession we're like, oop, not me though. No thanks. I'd like to skip that. And a lot of people will say, I haven't watched myself teach since somebody told me in grad school or whatever that I had to make a video of it, and it's
Mm,
hard.
mm. And you know, too, what you were just saying about we self-criticize. Yes, because sometimes I'm thinking, oh, I could have said that in Spanish. What in the world? But you have to
100%.
also
Mm-hmm.
show yourself grace and say, okay,
Uh-huh.
I was in the moment, I would it just didn't occur to
Yeah.
me, but I got my point across to my students, and my students could still
Yeah.
produce. That was
Yeah. And
one
it made me
tiny
think about it
snippet.
at least. I never would have thought
Yes,
about it because, like you said, we get so caught up in the like, Kenneth, have a seat. Tavana, that's enough. Jimmy,
right,
go ahead. And we're like bing, bang, boom with all those decisions and judgment calls and the energy and all that kind of thing. That
yes,
it's like, yeah, who could possibly hear themselves and go, I could have said that in Spanish until you see that and you
right,
reflect and it's just between you and you. The kids already
right,
know how you are. So if you're like, oh, how
right,
embarrassing. Do I sound like that? It's too late, girl. Like
right,
they know
right.
the jig is up. So whatever, who
Yeah,
cares? Hmm.
yeah, very good point. Very good point. And live and learn.
Yeah,
Live and
absolutely. And
learn.
and and what are you gonna do? I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that insight and
No,
that
I think
question. Good
I just think it's
question.
so wonderful that you have so many like artifacts of these great activities because it's so helpful to share what it looks like. Because so often we can say, oh, my students, I don't know about that, or my classes don't, they're not the same size, they're not the same kid. Well,
Mhm,
of course they're not the same kid. Like
mhm,
everybody's
mm,
situation is different. But when you're looking and it's like, oh, cool, I see so they're in groups. Okay, that's cool. Like you can literally see it and I just that is super super helpful.
amen. God,
Hmm.
thank you for
Hmm.
that feedback. Okay, so this right here is speaking cubes, and of course, this can be used for a lot of different things. And we have STEM changers, we have family members, pastimes, and places. And so the students, this was a station. Students roll the cubes and come up with sentences. And again, most of the time when they're in the stations or in little groups, I'm just walking around or I'm sitting in a chair, a rolling chair that fits in between the groups, and I'm rolling around, just listening to them quietly. I don't want to be intrusive of what they're doing. I just want them to feel that I'm there. Sometimes I will stand in the corner where they can still see me and sense me, and I will make comments out to them in different parts of the room and to let them know I'm paying attention to them because I am. I'm just standing there. I don't have anything in my hand. I'm just standing there listening and giving them feedback. And I'm watching the flow. I'm watching everything and I'm listening. And then, like I said, sometimes I'll be sitting in my chair amongst them because I don't want them to feel like, oh, she's standing over me, like state testing. She's standing over me. She's going to say something. No, I want them to feel like, okay, she's right here amongst us. And I'll just give feedback to this group, or I'll say, oh, what'd you just say? Oh, that was a good, oh, that was a good sentence. Oh, that should be a 3-pointer. And I want them to feel like, the psychology of teaching, I want them to feel like, okay, she's on our side. She's with us. She's not above us, even though, I do have control in that room. It's okay. She's right here with us. And that's an important part of this too. And so notice how she said, oh, that is part of one of the 7 principles of personalized learning, where it's just in time direct instruction. So I'm right there listening and say, uh, okay, I'm noticing this right here. And I noticed she kept saying it. And then after I said the ear for her, she said, oh, okay. And something I can learn from this is just to let the student say the whole sentence and I can hear everything. So I'm learning there too. Always, always, always learning. And here's another. And I let them choose if they want to roll them out one time, if they want to roll them together. I mean, roll them individually. If they feel something's way challenging or much more challenging, they can give each other more points. It's up to them. So that's saying twins lifting weights to tell or to say, and the park. So they have to create sentences, and they can add words to that. They can add words to that. And again, they have autonomy. I only come in for feedback and for if there's a serious problem, which this does not tend to have a problem. I'm going to go ahead and move on to for the sake of time. All right, next we have, this is Grabbers, a game that I created. Basically, you just set, if you have 2 rows, or it depends on how big your class is, but you put your desks in teams of 2 or 3. And so that's what it looks like. This year I had these little cool tables. And basically what I do is I will say in, let me explain before I will say in English what I want them to hold up in Spanish. So all 3 teams, they have the same cards, flashcards. And this one I think was the years. And so I might say 1972. And so they have to talk amongst themselves. They have to check each other to make sure that they have the right thing up. And they're supposed to be quiet after the timer goes off. Sometimes I forget about that until they're loud after the timer goes off. And then I say, okay, remember the rule, quiet after the timer goes off or I don't count your team. But this has been a great game because it helps them to focus in on, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. Same thing even with conjugating verbs, because sometimes I do believe sometimes it needs to be taught explicitly, because that's how I learn, but we also do the comprehensible input in here. As I said, my students do a lot of variety of activities. We don't do worksheets very often at all. And this right here, they're learning from each other because they're paying attention to each other. And winning teams gets money. So they have to hold it up. And I'm taking score. Okay, yeah, that's what I had up for them first. And see how they're quiet after the timer goes off. That's controlled. And it stays focused. And I'll tell them to switch, so they have to switch their cards around. But what I've learned about this is that it helps them to focus because they're looking at certain information. As they're looking, they're talking amongst themselves. And they say, okay, it was this because I remember so-and-so said it like this. And so that's been a productive activity for us too. And again, no technology. All right. This right here is counting money. This is the money challenge. I just grab a stack of my money. I don't have 5s and I don't have 1s anymore because when they got paid on payday, every 2 weeks was payday. And so they were getting $200. They were earning $200 per job. And jobs like door person, my light person, musica. So when someone comes to the room, they go back to the speaker, turn on the Bluetooth speaker and say musica. So I know to turn on the flamenco music that we played usually throughout the class, or at least during the first 4 minutes for a warm up. And just a variety of jobs. I have a banker. And so randomly, sometimes I'll say, okay, money challenge. And I'll just grab a wad of money, 10s, 20s, 100s. And we had to make $1,000 bill. I was just trying to keep it like a real money, but we had to make $1,000 bill because some of these kids are drinking a lot of water. I pay them for drinking water too, $200 a bottle. So after 5 days, that's $1,000. And so I'll grab money and whatever order it's in, they have to count it like that. If they can count it all, they keep it all. If they can't count it all, they can't keep it. And we're all just watching and listening. And it's all voluntary. So he had already gone some. This was the second half. Oh, and right there, he actually didn't say that correctly, but I let it fly. Because he actually had gotten the furthest than anybody else, and but a little bit further down, nobody else caught it. And further down, he ended up not winning the money, but I did give him about half because he did a fantastic job. And that again is being able to use those real life counting skills. And he volunteered to challenge himself there. Okay, let's see. Now, right here, we did some crafts also, which helps with learning. This right here was the Huichol Mexican yarn art. And these were the ojos, the dios, the God's eyes. And we were doing that when we were doing colors. So the students were able to pick the colors that they wanted. And this was quite relaxing to them. And this was actually right. This was that Friday before Christmas break, you know? Yeah. So this was nice and relaxing. And this is some of the yarn art. They had to, when they did the Huichol yarn art, they had to explain what they were doing, why they did it, what the story was behind it. We did watch videos on the Huichol Mexican Indians and the history of the yarn art. And so, like I said, they had to explain, they had to first in Spanish, they had to tell us what the college represented to them and how it made them feel in Spanish. And then they could talk about other information in English, but there wasn't much they could say in English. It was mainly in Spanish. And so now we're going to get to the stations, how the stations look. So let's use this one out. The station setups, these are, this is, like I said, over the years, you'll be able to see the difference in the rooms and the desks. What's important though, if you do stations, and some of the stations, it might be no tech at all anywhere in there. It's important in stations that when someone walks in the room, most importantly, the students, when they see them, they can say, oh, we're in stations 1. And then 2, someone walking in, seeing the headphones right here and seeing the cords coming down, they're going to realize, okay, that's listening. Right here, this is a group work. Right here, this is going to be presentational speaking because they're all facing forward by themselves. And let me see. This is group work. And again, these are pictures from different times, but I just want you to see a variety of setups. And yeah, let's see. These right here are presentational, which means they're going to speak on their own. The ones that are facing towards the door where we would be standing at the door. These right here, these are 2 desks facing each other right here. And then 2 desks right here, 2 desks right there. Those are clearly going to be partner work. And then these back here are going to be individual also because they're not all facing each other. Now, group work, different setups. Every time I do stations, and down here we have the can-do statements. But every time we do stations, I'm going to rotate them. So notice over here that the headphones are in the back this time over here. But I don't like to do the same setup every time. And I do have the buckets with instructions in them. And I'm going to go through these pictures fairly quickly. This is where we start. We started it in that Huichol yarn art as a class for 2 days. And because my classes are 50 minutes, so we just had to review. And then I put them in the stations. And this was one of the stations there. And so the instructions will be either in a baggie. They were in a baggie, but now I use these plastic holders. And each box will be labeled for students so they know what station they're going to. And this is what it looks like from one corner that I will stand in and give them feedback. So the listening stations right here. These desks, notice they're all facing one way and then one behind the other. And when the students come into class and they sit down, I'll tell them, don't sit with your buddies because I'm going to move you anyway. Depending on what we're doing, what the themes are, the theme is, because all the stations have the same topics, just different skills. There will always be a reading, a writing, a presentational speaking, interpersonal speaking, and a listening Or sometimes the presentational, it'll be either or presentational or interpersonal, or it'll be both. But the stations will always have the 4 skills. Sometimes we'll do culture in there, sometimes we'll have craft, sometimes there'll be a tech station in one of them, sometimes not. But this is what it looks like. So these and when the students sit down, after I get them arranged to where in the groups that I want them in, I'll ask them, look at where you're sitting. So for example, these students sitting right here, they're all facing one direction. So I'll ask them, based on how those seats are arranged, are you working with anybody or is it individual work? And here, that's the individual work because we're not facing each other. And then right here, this is partner work because they're in twos. Like here is gonna be group work. Right here, individual, but they can't ask each other if they want to because they're sitting next to each other, but not as a partner. So I go with the psychology of how I arrange my stations because I want them to understand the way the room is set up is it's not just 4, you know, groups of 4 here, 4 there. It's no, this is what you're going to do in this group. So that when they go to their groups after 15 to 20 minutes after they rotate, it helps them to have it's a mind shift. It's okay. And that station I was doing the word wrong. This station I'm going to be working on my own. So I want them to see that difference and understand the difference. Here another picture of how the stations are. And I'll keep the stations for about a week or so, depending on how much time we need. And here I explain oops. Yeah, they can take the headphones off because it's gonna loop. I just have it looping. But next we have let me go ahead and see. Another view. The word walls are up here. I teach a native speakers class and a Spanish 1 class, so that's why sometimes the word walls are different. And as we can see, my stations have evolved. The baskets have evolved over time. And here, you've seen some video of what it looks like in action. So these students are doing their work right there. We have the word wall up there. And then this was during COVID when we came back in the building. I have anchor charts around the room. We do use the big wall map. And we have acronyms to help remember those countries. As you can see, they're all actively working. Oops. And at this level, I'm sitting in a chair. And you see right here, she is using the computer. And if a student finishes early, they can go to another station if they need to. Right here, these two are writing out the date. They just have a little slip that has the dates on it. So these are stations. So these two are partners in that station. And over there, these two students are doing the same thing. While these are doing the cube speaking up here, we have the word wall. Over here, we have the listening. And back here behind us is the writing. I kind of see. And then again, it can look a lot of different ways. And what I love about stations that it affords us the time to work on multiple skills within one day instead of saying, okay, today we're going to do only speaking. Tomorrow we're going to do only writing. We can address multiples in one day. Okay, now I'm going to there's so much I have. And I just want to make sure I get to the low tech also. And this is just a quick differentiated assessment right here. As I was talking about with the weather, students do the gestures, and then these students chose to do the weather, to do kinesthetic. And this is, I'd say, midway through the scaffolding process. And so I have a check mark, I have a list. They're doing the same gestures, and I'm just checking them off. And then later on, they will be able to, I'm shopping, they will be able to use this information when they start talking to me about what they do and don't like to do. I mean, about their favorites. And then this is a differentiated assessment actually with students. This is how she wanted to sing about her holiday and the country I assigned her for the year. They had to find a holiday that was interesting to them, which is part of that personalized learning and differentiation. Differentiation actually comes in where she wants to sing it. Let me see. And this was her choice. And so she was singing about All Souls Day. And then I had another student, well, right here, this is students, they chose to, I'm not even sure which assessment this one was because we do so many of them like this over the years, and these are old, but they wanted to write it out. So while other students were working, I was assessing these students with, I was saying it in English or Spanish, and they were writing it out for me. Okay. Okay, so this was greetings. And this was, I mean, only getting them warmed up for the more challenging ones. And this was early on in the year, so this is setting the scene on how they are assessed. And so these two students chose to do some students did the dates up here on the word wall. These two chose to do it on the calendar. This is kinesthetic visual. So I'm saying May 31st in Spanish, and they have to go through, find it and point to it. And I just check it off on my paper. And then the second half of that is, let me see. I have a calendar, and I find the date that I already have circled. Actually, I point to a date, and they have to tell me what it is in Spanish. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. And let's see here. These students chose to do this is a visual. This is just a picture. This is a visual of the countries. So they all have a paper, and the countries are numbered up here, or have them. I forgot how I did this one. But they're taking an assessment, and they have a piece of paper that I gave them, and they had to correspond the country up here to the number on the paper. And other students chose to do the kinesthetic, which is when I took the labels off the wall and I would say the country, and they'd go and point to it, and I would just check it off. And right here, you'll see students are practicing while I'm assessing these two students up here. Oops, let's see. That Wi-Fi is something fun, huh? When you have a bunch of tabs with videos open. So, and this one's on weather based on what these students are doing back here. These girls are doing thunder, and I'm saying the weather to them up here, and these students are acting it out. Now, there are also some students at the same time right now that you can't tell, but they're actually doing a visual assessment in which they are looking on the paper. They're looking on the paper and they're writing out the weather based on the picture that they see on the paper. So this is actually two assessments going on at one time. And let's see. So she's also singing hers. That was that project. And I just wanted you to be able to see different ways to differentiate. And so let's close that one out now. A big board game. This is, as I said earlier, oh, maybe I deleted that one on accident. Big board game. Let me see. Oh, I did show you this. The big board game was the one where the students go up to the board, and that's where we ended up doing actually doing the trios. Now, I want to, we still have time. I want to go into let's see. I want to go into what do you call that? The low tech, because all of that was no tech. So low tech, language labs. Even if you don't have one, you can still use, of course, you can use different apps nowadays. You can post what you want them to practice listening to. You can post it on your LMS, your learning management site. And these language labs that come down from the ceiling, and I can listen to the students here. Now, of course, if you don't have the language lab too, you can just have them partner up like I was showing you in the stations. And but if you do have these students love speaking with each other, especially the first time, they think they're just tickled. And again, this is very easy to use, quite easy. And then we have this is Triptyco, which is a website. It's very easy. You can put a variety of activities on here. So these girls are there's a conversation here, and they're putting it in order. It's a conversation with the scenario was a boy's bringing his friend home to meet his parents or meet his mom. And so they have to arrange this, and they're talking amongst themselves. They're arranging it in order, and they're correcting each other, helping each other. And that's Triptyco, TRIPTICO. Let me just go ahead and pause that one. All right, now podcasting is going to be the last thing I touch on. So podcasting, we've done this with Flip this year, and it is actually quite easy. It is low tech. It's not as involved as you might think it is. We've also done it with Adobe Podcasting most recently, and this is my native speakers class. And this is just them planning. We've done one on careers. We've done one on they created stories. They could be true or false stories about their family. We podcast. What do you call that? We brainstormed on Padlet. And again, this is Adobe Podcast, and it is actually quite simple to use, which is why I have this in a low tech, because it actually does not take a lot. The main thing is that with podcasting, think about any assignment that you had, maybe a writing assignment, or maybe a partner speaking, maybe a presentational speaking individual. And you can actually turn that into a podcast, and you'd be surprised how quickly these kids get into it, the students get into it, because they can express themselves. They don't have to be on camera. And it's and they go through, they have to write it out. That's what I've had mine to write it out, proofread it, and it helps with paying attention to the intonation, to pacing. And we talked about that a lot. We listened to several podcasts, and they truly enjoyed this. And at the end of the school year, I had my students actually do they did a reflection. All my classes did one. And so we use headphones, so you don't even have to use headphones. You can just speak straight into the computer. You can speak straight into the computer. You can record it on another device and upload it. And then you can add music. And this Adobe Podcast is quite easy to use, which is lovely. It is very easy to use. There's not much to press on, not much at all. And so sometimes the students will go out in the halls and work, especially when they're doing the recording. And in May, at the end of the school year, all my classes, they did a podcast on they did a podcast on a reflection of the year. I asked them several questions. What was most productive for you in this class this year? What helped you learn Spanish? What stations were most helpful for you? How did the reward system and the money system, what impact did it have on your learning? What advice do you have for the students coming to this class next year? And they came up with some rather good information. It was intriguing actually to listen to their feedback. And this is a podcast Padlet that I do with my native speakers. I tend to use Padlet, or I'll just use the board to brainstorm with them. And these are ideas that students had. First, we came up with these topics, and then I had them put in, okay, what exactly under these topics do you want to know about? And some of them want to know about history. They want to know about the Equatorial Guinea, that country, and their food. And they want to know about traveling because, again, this is a native speakers class. Really, they're heritage speakers, but they wanted to know, these are different things that we don't know about other countries. So we want to see what other countries are doing. One of them wanted to know about chupacabra. So this again supports differentiation and personalized learning because the students have input and they were able to decide what kind of podcast that they wanted to make. And do you want to add anything, Miss Meredith? Let me see. I see something in the chat.
No, all good. All I did, I put the Adobe podcasting link in the chat as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just first of all, also that wall map, like that huge wall map that you have, I have wall map envy. It's so good. I was like, oh my gosh, she's got the whole world. It's so big. I've tried so many variations over the years and they've never quite been what I wanted. And I just loved that labeled, Equatorial Guinea and over in South America, like just big and proportion. They're just fantastic. But also it's just, you got to do it because then they can see where it's actually spoken and you're not just going like, well, Ecuador. And they're like,
right.
Doesn't mean anything to me, which I get. I mean, somebody gives me directions someplace here where I live. I'm like, don't give me that northwest, east, south state. Tell me left of the target. You know what I mean? So it's the same. Right. Like if you run into, the church with the big thing, you've gone too far, that kind of thing. So I get it when kids are like, like they don't quite know. Like when you say Cuba, they're like, is that kind of near? No, like let's pull out a map, right? Like let's just talk about it. Also, the student, so I knew this, but now, just seeing it is like a whole different level. You are the queen of multitasking your time. And I love seeing how, because I love stations. I love any kind of all right, set, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, go. I love that good, kind of busy noise and that friendly noise and that good kind of good chaotic energy where stuff's going. It's almost like a newsroom to me.
Right.
People, and you're like, bing, bang, boom. Everyone's working something different, but the goal is the same kind of thing. And it's just so fantastic to see that and just, the stations and everything organized. And I think that really is the key to low tech. I think we've gotten so bogged down with organizing our digital files, which I think is important, right? We've talked about
definitely.
Because if you can't find your stuff, then you don't got stuff, right? You could say you could have the biggest closet in the world, and if you're like, oh, I got a great pair of corduroys, and then you can't find them, well, then no, you don't. It's if you can't find it, then it's not there. You end up, remaking something that you already had and whatever. But your ability, I am such a sucker for the organizational goals that are your systems, because like you said, it's so simple. It's because I think of simple and easy is different, right? It's so simple where it's baggies and this and that. And you're just taking me back to the first time that I ever saw somebody open up a cabinet in their classroom. And I was like, oh, it was angels were singing because it was Laura Foreman, and she had everything in these individual magazine organizers. And she's like, okay, here are my manipulatives. These are my stations for unit 1. these are my stations for unit 2. She had a binder where she opened up all of her handouts, bing, bang, boom, pulled them out, made her copies. Like that was goals. And that was always what I worked towards. And I was just every time. So that's totally where my head is all the time with planning. I'm like, let's get the word wall. Let's get, like you said, like, let's
Yeah.
do some stuff. Let's do, let's get in there. Do you find that kids, do you find that your students the same way mine have, like really enjoy stuff like that more than, I don't know why I say like we'd expect, but it's because like we think they just want technology all the time, even though we know better. Do you find that yours are like, oh, fun, like mine, and they're like
Yes.
pulling out the baggies, they're like, oh, okay, cool, like Legos and Jenga and
Yes.
whatever. Mm.
Yes. 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 Indeed. When we do stations, I actually have them fill out, and it's in my handout. If it's not, I'll double check, but I believe it. Yeah, it is in there. There's a reflection sheet I created for each station, and I asked them, just give me a word or draw it, or a simple
Mhm.
sentence. What was most productive for you in this station? And at the end, after all the days of stations, at the bottom, okay, circle the stations that were most productive for you.
Mm.
Which one did
Love.
you enjoy the most?
Yeah.
And what are you most proud of that you learned doing these stations for these days? And a lot of them will say the
Mm.
word wall, because they get to talk to each other and they can see it and
Yeah,
arrange it. And I said, okay, that
absolutely.
was, and then another good one that they actually like that presentational speaking. And that's
Mhm.
usually when they have to record into their Seesaw portfolio.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they have said that they enjoy these. And also I think it's because it makes the class go faster and they're
1000%.
learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're learning and it's fun and it's not just like I said, I don't do a lot of worksheets in my room.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. And my goal is that they can produce, that they can actually use the language, they can understand what they're hearing, and they know the nuance. They can pick up on the nuances. They can understand the gestures. They can use their facial expressions. I mean, we focus on those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Well,
do
that to
like
me comes
these.
down to confidence too. Like what I hear you saying are
Yes.
all these things that are just come down to confidence, where
Yes.
I just philosophically think that language, I know you're the same way, think that language should be fun and it should
Yes.
be easy. Like this
Yes.
shouldn't be the hardest part of your day. Like we are clearly the most fun people in their schedule. Okay. Like we are the fun teachers. We're the fun, like content area. Like this is not supposed to be miserable. You're supposed to enjoy this and it's
Supposed to be
supposed,
cool
right. We're the cool
that you can use it.
people.
Right.
I
Right.
know.
It's like,
Don't
oh,
they
did you do that?
realize? I know.
And
Like,
sometimes,
guys, do you know how cool I am? Right. No, 100%. And I love
mm,
that because you clearly, like the joy that you get in working with them is so clear. And I just love that because it's, like you have to do that. And like just you mentioning like the things that I feel like for you are like little things, like small potatoes are so pedagogically significant that somebody new or somebody who's struggling might go, oh my gosh, I can't even wrap my mind around that little thing. But it's just like automatic for you. Like you said, like where you're just like, get them invested, like get them, be goofy with stuff. Say, hey
mhm.
guys, and I'm gonna use my phone like as a prop here, like, okay, I'm gonna nerd out and I like to record. So no, no pressure,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And you set
yeah,
up the thing and they're like, oh, here she goes again. Here goes
yeah.
single
They're
more.
used to
And
it.
you're like,
Yeah,
thank you. Right. And they don't think anything of it, but they don't see that like in other classes. And for them to have the like, okay, where you're like, all right, dude, like keep playing, guys, it's fine. It's just me. Or
yeah.
like,
I just tell them, don't look at me. Because I
yes,
mean,
where
they're
you're
used
like,
to me
I'm
to
just
just don't
eavesdropping,
look
like,
at me. Just
I'll just
yeah,
be over here. Right.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, here she goes again, and you're like,
yeah.
sorry. But I think those are the things that show that you care so much about what you do and you care about them. And I think it's really easy to take those little things for granted, but people can't even, sometimes see what that looks like. And it's like, no, that's to me truly caring about teaching, and that's truly caring. That's to me SEL. Like it's just
Mm,
good darn pedagogy is, has all that SEL like baked in where you're like, hey, this isn't weird, right? Like you're good. Okay, we're gonna record.
yeah, yeah,
Are you okay?
yeah,
Do you need some help? Grab a whiteboard, and they're like,
yeah.
okay. Like it's that kind of I got your back. Also, I totally made a note too. Why have I never, well, because you're amazing. And that's why I haven't thought of it because you're fantastic. Like, how have I
Thank
never thought about the students back to back showing something where they can't see each other? I was like,
Mhm.
Shut up. That's such a great idea. And how fun for like low stakes, just like
Right.
its own little station where you're like, right, don't turn around. Like that's kind of fun to have them like back to back and they're like, you know, or like you had the four all facing one way. That's fabulous. And now it's
Mhm.
like, no, don't be looking around. Just show me what you
Mhm.
got. Don't worry
Mhm.
about it. Don't freak out. There's no need to look around because we know that's why
Right.
students look around
Mhm.
is because it's everything's for a grade, or whatever. But yeah,
And the
no,
students,
idea.
the ones who are sitting there watching or studying, they,
Mhm.
if they're not taking another assessment at the same time, um, one student told me one time when a student was on the word wall, doing the word wall assessment, and when my student said, that's cheating. And so I stopped and said, what's cheating? He said, we can see what they're doing. We can hear you and we can see what they're doing. And this no one else was assessing at the time. And
Mhm.
I said, how is it cheating when all you're doing is studying what they're doing? I said, in your mind, you're thinking, oh, that's right. Oh no, that's not right.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah,
That's
yeah, that.
preparing.
Yes. I said, so you're actually studying and it's helping you, especially the
Love
visual
them.
people. Yeah. And I
Right.
said, so there's no cheating here. And he said, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, stop
He's
looking for
like,
something that's not
that's
there.
fine. Ugh. Right. You're like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
also not my first rodeo, Jimmy.
Yes. Right. Right. And it matters a lot to ask them, because I'll give them choices that I think of, and then I'll ask them, what else can we add to this? What
Mhm.
else do you all want to try for this assessment? And they'll give me ideas, and I'll run it through my mind. Sometimes I say, you know what, yeah, we'll add that right now, and so
Yeah,
I'll add that for my other classes too.
absolutely.
And it's these are not what I was showing you. They're not labor intensive.
Right.
They are you can like I said, those word walls, those will last for years. The
Mhm.
foam sliders, they'll last for years. Every now and again,
Amen.
it's okay. Let me go and find that color and replace that one because they've been wearing that one out.
Mhm.
But just get those big Ziploc baggies,
Yeah.
Amazon, order the big bags
So good.
and label them or put them in there or put them away just when you need them. I have a word wall person, that's a job. And when it's time to take them down, I'll say, okay, go ahead and take them down. And then
Mm.
here's a new set to put up.
Right. Switch them
And they
out.
just last for a long time. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Those big bags are key too. Well, and again, like you said, the labeling, how easy is it to just be, and I've done this, so I say this like as a judgment to myself, where like you start out early PowerPoints, right? I was just like, week of
Mhm.
August 10th. Well, not helpful. Because next year it ain't week of August 10th.
No.
And I don't know what level, what unit, what are we doing? Probably the same, probably easy enough to figure out, but it's still some time loss and just like,
Mhm.
you know some thought, whatever. So that labeling is so key too. Like you said, like get the bags, like get a plan. If you're going,
Right.
you want to do stations, if you want to do some tangible, stuff, which we should absolutely all do, like
Oh,
get a plan, get a system. And I think that's for
yes.
me
System.
when I said like that, my friend Laura was like, "Oh," like open that like angel cabinet. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how have you, because she had just started, like she was a second career teacher and I was student teaching.
Mm,
And I was like, how are you so intentional? But then I go to her house and like as a human person, she had
that's
a
her.
organized house. She had twins. She was used to like did it, like putting things
Right.
together. Right. So for her, it was just like she was on mom duty, just being like, obviously this is
Yeah,
labeled,
really.
obviously this is whatever. And I was like 22, like, oh my God, trying to figure stuff out. But now I look and I'm just like, it is so funny that teaching can be so chaotic at any level, right? Like post-secondary, secondary, elementary, whatever,
Yes.
that it can just fly by us and suddenly it's October, suddenly it's March,
Yes.
suddenly it's May.
Yes.
You've done amazing things all year, but
Right.
without procedure or process or system, some of it gets lost. And then the next year you're like, oh shoot, what were those stations? And it's
Right.
girl, like get
Right.
a Sharpie and a bag. And if you'd even
Yeah.
just saved some of it, even a copy of the handout, like if you can't
Yeah.
find it in your Google Drive, then at least you had like a hard copy. Like we lose so much because because it's so
Mhm.
hard not to. Like you get so caught up in the day to day that the school year passes
Exhausted.
you by and you're just like surviving. And then you're like, man, I did some good stuff. You look back at
Right.
pictures in those videos, you go, man, I did some good stuff, but like I don't know where any of it is. So I really appreciate seeing those systems too and seeing those boxes and seeing those organizers. I think that's really, really helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you teach multiple levels, this year I'm teaching eighth grade only, but in the past I've taught sixth, seventh, eighth grade.
Mhm.
And then when I was in high school, you have Spanish 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't record any of my high school. I wish I had, and it
Right.
didn't occur to
Right.
me. But I I have students whose job is as the stations keeper. So when they come in, if they're seventh grade, they come in and they take eighth grade off,
Mm-hmm.
and they put seventh grade out. And in the morning, I'll have eighth grade, whoever that person is, say, go ahead and get the stations. I just have them, the boxes stacked and ready, and they know where to put them.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
fabulous. But again,
Mhm.
like parenting, like organizing, like having a pet, like all of these different roles we take on in life where it's like,
Mm,
yeah, I have some thought, right? And also like to me, it's so powerful. Again, we have so much technology in our lives, but just that good old fashioned, I'm a sucker for a class job. So it's like you come to class, you have a role here. Like you,
right.
and
You
I noticed that
belong.
you're gone. That's right. And like, hey, Tavane, we missed you yesterday. You weren't
Right.
and nobody was here. And kids kind of they stand up a little bit straighter and they're like, "Oh, you missed."
Right.
Yes, like here's what you missed. We needed you.
Yeah.
Like nobody was
Yes.
here to turn off the lights, and you kind of make it into a thing and it's, kind of funny. But again, in life, what happens when you don't go to church for a couple of weekends or you don't go to the gym for a little
That's
while?
right.
Next time you go, what do people say? Hey, haven't seen you. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Like
Yeah, like
it's
you
that
care.
social accountability. Yeah. And
Yeah. Yeah.
technology cannot replicate that. And it cannot, it can't do what those human connections can do,
Mm,
which is
mhm,
your teacher
mhm,
in that doorway going, yeah, you're back. Like we missed you yesterday.
mhm.
I didn't know what to do, and then, David took your job. David, come tell, and then little Timmy Tommy's in the doorway, like, David, and you're, it's a whole thing and you joke with them and you have fun with them. But that's that's
Culture,
but yeah,
cultivating that
that's
culture.
classroom culture, and that's you clearly caring about teaching and clearly caring about
Yeah.
them, but also caring about that experience that they have. I think we talk a lot about like environment, but I'm also like, what about experience? Like that's a different environment's kind of a set thing, and there's some stuff that feels to me like out of our control. But can
Mhm.
we still curate a heck of an experience with all of these things?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And I often say that you know how these football coaches will tell their players, leave everything on the field when you go home at the end of the
Mhm.
game. You leave everything out on the field. And that's exactly how I feel. Like I've
Yeah.
left everything. I've just poured myself
Yeah.
into my classroom. When people come in my room, they say, "Oh, it's so welcoming in here." And it's thank you. That's exactly what I want it to
Like, you're
be.
darn right, right?
Yes. Yeah, and there've been some principals even over the years that have,
Yeah,
and assistant principals who would come in and say, "I just want to go sit in the back of your room and do some
right.
work." And they'll just go
Like,
sit back
"Okay,
there and
come on
say,
in."
"Go for it, no problem, no problem."
That's so
Yeah,
nice.
I
Well,
love it.
exactly. Meanwhile, you're just, like, disassociating in the front, like,
Right.
"Oh," like, exhausted, but you're like, "Yeah, come on in."
Yeah,
'Cause it's
yeah,
true, like, I think I've said this for a long time where the easier obviously you're a master teacher, so, like, the better you get at teaching, the easier it looks. And I think the
yes.
deep, dark secret of
Mm,
really effective teaching is the easier it looks, the easier people think it is. And
mm,
so it's super easy to go, like as a kid, to go, oh, did I miss anything? I was gone. Didn't? And they see all these things that we laugh about because you're like, yes, you missed stuff.
yeah,
We didn't just sit around. Or
right.
an administrator doesn't really realize what's going on. They just go, oh, especially in world language, right? They're like, I didn't understand anything, so I just didn't.
Mhm.
Not all of them, obviously, but enough to be like, kind of, the story we all have at some point. And I think that's a really hard thing about getting experience, getting organized, like kind of getting having a lot of that together as you obviously do um is then like, okay, now what? Because yes, I'm really good at this. And also, this is still hard. I don't have to look like I'm struggling for this to clearly be work.
Yeah,
What do you mean? Like, I don't
yeah,
know if that
yeah,
makes sense if I articulated that well,
yeah,
but it's just,
yes.
it's one of those things, like I said, I don't think we talk about enough where it's like, I think I don't know, one of my big words that I rally against, how we all just have those things, like we're just pedantic about something. And mine is always effortless. We say, oh, so and so, you just make it all look effortless.
Please,
And I'm
right,
like, girl, effortful. I'm like, she's
right.
exhausted, like, can't you tell? Yeah, like, what are you talking
Yes,
about effortless? We say, oh,
yes.
it's like a new parent with an infant or like twin infants, and we're like, oh, you're just
Mhm,
effortlessly. Meanwhile,
mhm,
they're like, gosh, I've never been so tired. So I
right.
think I think that is a high compliment of your administrators to not feel that chaos that we know teaching is, right? They come in, they're like, this is beautiful. Like, this is a great place. Do you mind if I, not at all? Because we know we're like a duck, where it's like calm on the surface,
Yeah.
the feet underneath are like, whatever. But
Yes.
it's, to
Yeah.
me, it's like high praise when somebody
Mm.
else goes, "This is such a nice place to be." And you're like, why, thank you.
Yeah. And
And,
yeah, and in my mind, I'm thinking, it's just my brain. It's my brain on the
yes.
walls and everything.
Right.
And it's
Well, it's
just,
like your house. You're automatically looking at your
yes.
baseboards like, are they gonna notice? And know
Right,
what's
right, right, right. In my room, I feel comfortable when I walk in there. It just, I will take my stuff off the walls at the end of the year, as
oh,
late as possible.
worst.
During testing, I cover it up, but
Yeah.
as late as possible because I don't want the mind shift of the students thinking, oh,
It's weird.
everything's gone because they'll say, oh,
Right.
it's empty in here.
It's
And I don't
weird
want them
here.
thinking,
What is
oh, we're not
everything?
gonna
Just
do
put your
anything.
stuff right in. Right. And you're
They said,
like,
oh no, we're working
right.
to the very end. We're working to the
Same,
very end. And
same.
yeah, I'm
I'll
like a
take them
person.
off the day after school's out, like all by myself. The AC's off, the building's empty. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'll
Oh,
do whatever
it's
because I don't
wonderful.
want it to be weird.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And Kelly, did you have your hand up? I saw her hand up
Okay. Let me
earlier.
see. Let me check. Oh, yay.
Okay.
Yay. Kelly says thank you. She has to go. Oh, I
Okay.
love,
Thank
love.
you.
Yay. She's fantastic. Um, Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. And thank you for going into the after party here.
Yeah,
I know.
really. Yeah,
That's
we
so
could talk all
funny.
night.
Hey, listen, I know. I
Thank
was like, I just any opportunity to collaborate with you in any
you
capacity. I'm
too.
like,
Yes.
absolutely. Sign me up for 6 hours. I'm like, great. I got nothing on my calendar, right?
I remember the first time I was in one of your sessions years ago. I'm thinking, she's using Google Voice with her. She's having the kids call her for. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, let me see how I do this. I was like, oh my gosh! And you speak
Oh,
quickly. I
that
was
was one
like,
of my
she's a
favorite
character. Look,
sessions.
but I was sitting there thinking, that is so cool. You're innovative.
Yeah. God,
Innovative. I love it. I love
loved
it.
Google Voice. And then came back to Gwinnett and was like, oh yeah, language labs. But what a great, yeah. Oh, I loved Google Voice. That session was called Hold Please Caller. I remember. Uh-huh. I loved that one. I did that to
Fantastic.
anybody who would listen because it was so great. And Google Voice is so easy. You're just like bing bang. It's just the phone. So it's that
Yeah.
thing. It's that sort of like old tech meets new tech where it's like you need recordings of your students. If we are talking low budget, no budget, like just easy peasy, have them
That's
call
fantastic
a
right
number.
now, actually. I'm glad you
Yes,
said that. Low tech. I'm
yes.
glad you said that. Yeah.
Like I'm like, do they have a telephone? Just have them
Yeah.
call the phone number. I mean, that's the most
I love that.
just
And that's real
the most
world.
basic of things. That's so funny. Yeah. Oh, I love that
Mhm.
session. I need to bring that one back.
Yeah.
Um, because I love Google Voice. I get an email like every 8 months or so that's like Google being like, hey, we're about to cancel your Google Voice number. And then I go in and like use it for 2 seconds. Then I'm like, all right, go, we're back. So sigh. Well, yay. You are just the best. And
You are too. Thank you.
super, super appreciate this. I'm gonna post the
Oh,
links for all
absolutely.
the things.
Okay.
And we'll have everything ready. And I am super, super grateful for your time. And
Thank you.
you're just the
Thank you
best.
for having me.
Georgia's a great place to be, everybody. And we're super lucky,
Yes.
Tavana, and just it's just
Same
fantastic.
with you, Meredith. You're something else. Woo. Marvelous.
We're doing
You're
we're doing
marvelous.
we're doing the best
Yeah.
we can. Yay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Well, I will talk
Right.
to you later and
Okay.
thank you again.